I shot a wedding with the Canon R6 Mark II for the first time. Is it the perfect wedding camera? Let's find out. Let's talk about the gear I used on this wedding and what I actually paired the Canon EOS R6 Mark II with. So I brought the Canon EOS R6 Mark II, of course, and my second body was the Canon EOS R with the battery grip on the bottom for 2 batteries. And for basically the majority of the day on this R6 Mark II, I had the beast itself, the 70-200 f2.8, and man, I absolutely love this lens. I took the majority of the photos on the whole day with this lens because I was second shooting for someone, and they were mainly getting the wide angle shots and like your 35mm, while I was actually getting like different angles and getting tights with the 70-200. However, I wasn't only doing that. For example, for the ceremony, I was at the back, so I was using the 70-200, while on my Canon EOS R, I actually had the 35mm just to get a little bit more wider shots as well. However, throughout the day itself, I mainly used, I think, the 35mm at the start of the day at the hotel when I was doing groom prep with the R6 Mark II, and I also put the 50mm f1.8 on it as well towards the end of that. When I actually got to the actual main venue itself, I was mixing between the 35mm and the 50mm. And when we actually got to the cake cutting and the first dance, I just used the R6 Mark II, and I swapped between the 35mm and the 50mm because it got really dark and I wanted that f1.8 aperture. However, thinking of it now, I could have actually used the 70-200 because I actually had a Canon flash on top of the camera, and boy am I glad I used that flash. It actually took the photos from like not as good when you have to drag the shadows up on the actual people itself, like amateur photos, to really good like professional looking photos with the flash. They were exposed perfectly. It looked absolutely amazing with the beautiful, like they had these like little Christmas lights in the background as well. That flash made all the difference. So even though the Canon EOS R6 Mark II has the 24 megapixel sensor and it is really good in low light, I didn't push it to the limits with the ISO, mainly because I was using the flash, and I was really glad I used the flash. So I got to the hotel at 10 and we didn't actually start packing down to about 9:30. So what, 11.5 hours using both cameras. And if you're actually wondering how the battery life performed on this camera, it was absolutely amazing. I actually got through the whole day in about 1.5 batteries. Like I think it got down to the 1 bar on the second battery. Bearing in mind there was a couple of waiting around times where we had either lunch and dinner, so there was about 2 hours throughout the day where I wasn't using these cameras. But for the rest of the day, I actually had them on all the time because I had the double strap over my shoulders, and I had one camera on my left and one camera on my right, and I had it on throughout the whole day so I could quickly get it up and just start shooting photos. And I got to admit, with it being on all the time, I'm really impressed with the battery life performance of this camera. Considering I was thinking of getting the Canon EOS R8, which still looks like an amazing camera. However, what really did put me off was the small batteries, and I really didn't want to buy all of the extra batteries for it, and obviously it's not going to perform as well. Having that small battery would have just been annoying, and I'd have to get loads throughout the whole day. So considering this battery lasted, what I would say, about 6 hours, like with it being constantly on nearly, is so good. Also, the ergonomics are brilliant. I absolutely loved using this camera. I had so much fun using it, and when I actually had both cameras down the side, even though I love this lens as well, but even when I had like the 50mm and the 35mm, I was always reaching for this camera, mainly because of obviously it's a better camera than the Canon EOS R. However, just the ergonomics and the user interface and the user experience using this camera is absolutely amazing. The shutter is actually a lot quieter as well than the Canon EOS R. It actually feels really comfortable to use. I absolutely love this joystick at the back because I can actually focus where I want using it. It's so easy. I know you can use the back of the LCD screen on the Canon EOS R as well, but it's just nowhere near as good as just using the joystick on the back. Again, with the wheel at the back as well, just using that to navigate the menus is so fast and so easy. The viewfinder is brilliant. It's so clear when you actually are looking through it. And just overall, this camera is just so much fun to use. I absolutely loved it. Every time I actually did go onto the Canon EOS R, I actually found it quite annoying. I didn't really like the tracking on it either. That's actually where we're going to be getting into the autofocus on this camera as well, because it's not only amazing to use, but the autofocus is just ridiculous. It actually is a little bit too good sometimes, because on some of the photos, when I'm actually trying to track a subject, for example, right in front of me, and they're dancing and moving about quickly, it's that good, it can actually track the eye of someone in the background like 20 meters away from the person I'm trying to shoot. So it actually does end up getting some out of focus photos because it's just focusing on the wrong person, but it's that good. It can track the eye from so many places, from so far away. On the actual AOF button at the top, I've mapped this button to eye detect control, I think it's called. So basically, I use the joystick to actually pick where I want to focus, because sometimes I want to use the joystick to pick this is what I want to focus on if I actually want to focus on a particular subject. However, if I want to lock onto someone's eye, all I do is press the AF on and it instantly locks onto that person's eye. And if I turn it off again, I can actually start using the normal like AF little square to focus myself. But I can put the AF square over to the left side, press the AF on button, which is my eye detection, and it will instantly latch onto the eye. And it's that good, I can actually choose what eye I want just by using the joystick. I can actually pick which eye I want, then I press the AF on, which is the eye detection autofocus, and it will lock onto that eye. If I want to change the eye, I'll move over. If I want to change the person, I'll move over again, and it goes to the person next to them. If I want to change that person's eye again, the left eye for example, I then move it over and it goes onto that person's eye. It's honestly so ridiculous, and it's just so easy to use, so amazing, and the tracking is just so good. In servo mode, it's just a little bit too good, like I said, with it locking onto the person into the background. You are not going to find any better autofocus on the market at the minute than that is in the Canon R6 Mark II. It's absolutely amazing. Another great thing about the Canon R6 Mark II is obviously the high speed shooting. When it was actually during the ceremony and when they were about to kiss and say their vows, I had it on high speed mode continuous, and as soon as they went to kiss, I just spammed the button and it took like 40 photos in a second. I did not miss a moment at all. It all locked on perfectly with the autofocus. It's just amazing what you can do with these cameras these days. I got the exact movements of the two when they all started kissing, and it's just, honestly, it's amazing. The high speed mode, 40 frames per second in electronic mode as well. Silent shutter because I didn't want to distract anyone from the actual ceremony itself, even though in the mechanical mode it's really quiet anyway, which is actually really surprising. And this is what I actually really like about this camera. Having the high speed mode with the ridiculous autofocus as well, it's just, honestly, it's so fun to use this camera. You're going to absolutely love it if you do get it, and I really do recommend you do buy this camera. Even now, just me talking about it, I will have the link in the description below for you to buy this camera, and I really do suggest that you actually do, because I've got to admit, I think Canon have made one of the best cameras on the market at the minute, especially for the price. Again, another reason why I chose the R6 Mark II over the Canon EOS R is because of the dual SD card slots. Now, mainly, this just basically eases my mind throughout the day. I had two SD cards in, writing the exact RAW and JPEG to both cards, and it just ease of mind. I had them to both, they were both safe. One went with one photographer I was with, one came with me. We've both got backups basically of them, and it's just eases your mind on the day, because you know it's like more safe than if you was using the Canon EOS R with just the one SD card slot. It just makes life so much easier and stress-free. I've only had a little glimpse of the photos that I took with the Canon R6 Mark II at the wedding on Saturday, and I got to admit, some of them do look really, really nice. It looks like it's sharp, it's focused well, and it looks like the Canon R6 Mark II performed very, very well. However, I can't show any photos at the minute because unfortunately the client does not have the photos. As soon as they do actually receive the photos, then I'll actually start putting them on YouTube and Instagram for you guys to actually see how the R6 Mark II actually did perform, because mainly at the minute this is just a user experience on how much fun I actually had with this camera throughout the day, and just how easy it was to use, how nice it was to use, and just how good of a camera this actually is overall. I actually think the Canon R6 Mark II might be the perfect camera for wedding photography and also wedding videography as well, considering I shot a whole wedding last year just on the Canon EOS R with the absolutely unbelievable video features you can find in this 10-bit 422, 4K 50 with no crop whatsoever, in C-Log free, with no record limit as well, which is crucial if you want to set one of these up on 4K 25p. You don't have to keep going up to it and turning it on every 59 seconds, because it has unlimited recording in 4K 25. If you're shooting on a gimbal, for example, with 4K 50p, you've got 40 minutes of recording, which is more than enough in my opinion. and just overall with IBIS as well in this camera. For wedding videography, it's going to be absolutely amazing, just like it is with wedding photography. I will do a comparison between the R6 Mark II and the Canon EOS R, just on like a real world like user experience test, basically comparison, to see actually which one you should go for, to see if the price is justified for the Canon R6 Mark II over the Canon EOS R. And if you are interested in watching that video, and if you actually did enjoy this video as well, why not hit that like button and subscribe so you don't miss that video and many other videos that I actually will be making on the Canon R6 Mark II in the future. So if you actually did enjoy this video, you might also like this video right here, where you actually might not know some of these hidden features on the Canon R6 Mark II that I definitely didn't know a few of them before I actually bought it. And I gotta admit, some of these features as well really does make the camera that much better.